Wool has been used as a fibre to make clothing and blankets since prehistoric times. By the Middle Ages in Wales, woolen manufacturing was a significant industry. From the Middle Ages until the 20th century, woolen manufacturing was an important rural industry in Wales. Wool from local sheep was used to make clothes, blankets and rugs.
So the main reason we shear sheep is purely for their welfare. Sheep are very prone to getting what we call blowfly strike, which then goes into maggots, which isn't very pleasant for the sheep at all. So once a year, every year, we take their fleeces off them, and it is purely for their welfare. It's not for ours, because it is back-breaking. And actually, when you see the sheep go from the shed and they're sheared, it's almost like an utter relief off their face, just to get all that wool off. So if you can imagine wearing a big, massive woolly coat when it's 26, 27 degrees outside, that's how the sheep feel. So that's the reason we do it.
Mae wyna'n dechrau diwedd mis Chwefror. Ni'n trio cael bod wyn bach, da ni ma erbyn dydd Gwyl Dewi. A wedyn ni'n mynd mlaen trwy mis Mawrth, a wedyn mae wastod rhai stragglers da ni wedyn erbyn yn mis Ebrill, ond ni'n gobeithio bod ni mwy neu lai ar ben erbyn diwedd mis Mawrth.
We'll start shearing in May, and we generally aim to finish in June, so we'll do them in 2 bunches. So we have the females from last year's lambs that we'll do in May, and then we have our main bunch of ewes and lambs, and we will shear the ewes in June.
Ar hyn o bryd i ni'n defnyddio peiriant a trydan. Dwi wedi wneud amell un a gwelle, ond bydde hwnnw'n ala lot gormor amser i ni.
So we take the fleeces, and as we shear them, each fleece is rolled up individually, and it's placed into what we call a wool sack.
Mae'r gwlan wedi ni gyd yn mynd ar hyn o bryd, mae ei gyd yn mynd i Aberhonddu i'r bwrdd machnata gwlan.
Shearing Day was one of the major events of the farming calendar, when farming families in an area would all gather at a farm for the shearing of its flock. The men would gather the sheep into pens, catch them for the shearers. Children gathered the fleeces and marked the shorn sheep with pitch on their branding iron. The wives and girls would be in the farmhouse preparing and serving special shearing day lunches and teas. It was a big social occasion as well. This is Esgarmol Woolen Mill. It's the working woolen mill at St Fagans. It was opened at St Fagans in 1952. It represents the type of mill that existed in rural Wales. It stood originally at Llanwrtyd in Breconshire, and in the 1930s it was operated by Isaac Williams and his son Rhys Williams. Esgarmol is a comprehensive woolen mill in that all the process are undertaken in the one building.
So mae flwyddyn dda o'r gwanwyn i'r hydref, rhywo, cardo, nyddi, pleio, twisto. Mae'n yn y gian a'n loft yn gweud siol ac a phenni. Na fi fi'n neud trwy flwyddyn. Un hanner troi i'r glan amrwd mewn i'r dafe, a hanner arall troi i'r dafe mewn i'r defnydd. Mae chi'n gweld fi'n neud ar droell Gymraeg fan hyn. Sy'n ffordd arall ydy fi i weindo na felyn. Hwnnw'r ffordd fi'n weindo. Neu mae'n galw'n Saesneg, the walking wheel. Mae fel wreid o baking wel chi di dysgu neu chi byth angofio. Y tu ôl i fi nawr, mae dych chi Priana cardo sy'n cribo glan. Be mae cardo wneud yw cribo glan yn un ffordd, mae fel cribo gwallt. Chi'n rhoi'r dafe mewn un ffordd, a wedyn chi'n nyddu. Beth yw nyddu? Mae dafe'n stretcho mas a rapo rwn i hunan a beth yw nyddu. Ond mae peiriant bwynista bwys nawr, enw'r spinning jack, mae'r peiriant yn mynd mewn a mas ar y rails. Prif i'n nyddu, dwi'n nyddu 80 o dafe ar un go. Ond mae peiriant spinning jack yn eitha arbennig, hwnnw unig un o'i fath sy'n ar ôl yn Cymru neu Prydain. A gath i wneud yn Llanbryn Mair. So ar pwynt hanesyddol, mae'r peiriant yn priceless. Hwnnw unig un o'i fath sy'n ar ôl.
The Tavy Valley in West Wales was the heart of the woolen industry by the 19th century. One such mill, Cambrian Mills, closed in the mid-1970s, and it was to become the home of the new National Wool Museum in 1976. Villages such as Drefach Felindre were industrial villages based solely around the woolen industry.
Erbyn heddi, i ni'n prynu gwlân wedi sgwrio mewn i'r amgueddfa. Mae gwlân wedi sgwrio wedi cael ei olchi cyn y broses, a'r olew I gyd wedi cael ei dynnu allan.
This is the willower, and also known as the devil, because as you can see from the actual drum, the teeth there are incredibly sharp. It takes quite a while for the machine to slow down, and it has been known that this machine has taken the arm off a worker in a previous mill. And we use it from the start of the process where we have to blend the wool and we run it through the machine to basically break up the fibres and to get them to run in the same direction. That then can be then transferred across to the carding engine for the next stage of the process.
Cribo yw'r broses pwysicaf yn y gyfres, ac os na fydd yn cael ei gyflawni'n gywir, ni fydd gwlân wedi nyddu'n llyfn na'r brethu yn y gynhyrchir o safon uchel. Weithiau, gelwir y cribwr yn deml y felin. Mae'n broses debyg I griboch gwallt, cael gwared a chlymau a sythu'r ffibrau. Mae yna ddau beiriant yn gwneud I fyny y peiriant cribo. Y sgriblwr a'r cribwr. Wedi'r gwlân basio drwy'r ddau peiriant, mae'n cyrraedd y cywasydd ar diwedd y cribwr, lle mae'n cael ei rannu'n y defion meddal unigol, ac yn cael ei rolio ar 4 bobyn mawr.
The spinning process is when you take the carding wool off the carding engine and you twist it so that you've taken the fibres that have gone through the carding and spin them so that they wrap around each other and begin to bind together to add the strength. In the industrial side, you have the spinning mule, which can spin 400 threads at once and only needed 2 people to operate it. But there is also the hand processes like the treadle spinning wheel and the grape wheel, which could be done in the cottage industry.
Once we've gone past the spinning, the next stage then of the manufacturing process is the making of the blankets. So they're made on this loom. The warp beam is on the back of the loom, and I think has up to about 1,000 yards of warp on there. And so we're able to make probably about 30 to 40 blankets at a time. It works on a shuttle, and it has a bobbin which is loaded up, which goes inside the shuttle. And the shuttle then is located in here in the box, like that. The loom itself is very powerful, it works very quickly. The shuttle will move across at about 30 miles an hour, and we can produce hundreds of yards of cloth on a weekly basis when they're running. The yarns that we use for making up the warp and of course for the weft, which goes into the shuttles, originally it would have been dyed on the site. However, for commercial purposes now, we purchase our yarns from companies that can provide the sort of level of consistency that is required with our blankets. On the completion of the weaving, when we run out of warp, the blanket is then taken off the take-up beam at the front and we mend it, so any small errors or imperfections in the weave are corrected on site before it's sent away to be washed and finished.
Fel elusen, mae eich cefnogaeth yn hanfodol ac yn helpu'r amgueddfa ym mhopeth rydyn ni'n ei wneud. Helpwch ni I greu dyfodol bywiog sy'n siapo stori Cymru. Cliciwch ar y ddolen yn y ddisgrifiad neu sganiwch y cod QR I gyfrannu nawr. As a charity, your support is vital, helping the museum in everything we do. Help us create a vibrant future that shapes the story of Wales. Please click on the link in the description or scan the QR code to donate now.